Hi, today we are going to be talking about autism as part of the Croydon Ability Network, which is the staff disability network at Croydon Health Services. We're very lucky, we've got an NHS staff member from a neighbouring trust who's really kindly agreed to talk to us today about his journey through autism. His name's Dudley. And today he's looking absolutely fabulous as his alter ego. So I'm going to pass over to Dudley. Dudley, do introduce yourself.
So obviously, my name's Dudley. I also go by Rebecca Luxon. Beck's like any form of the shortened version of Becca, Becky. To be fair, I'll probably even answer to dog because I answer to everything. I'm 26. I work for a local NHS trust in the pharmacy department. As you can tell, very fabulous as an individual. Enjoy doing, obviously, a bit about me. Obviously, as you can tell, enjoy doing my little drags and my dress ups. But I'm also a big gamer, so I spend if I'm not dressing up as fabulous, I'm either sat in front of a computer gaming or rolling some dice. I was diagnosed when I was in my early, I think 12, 13-year-old rough age. I remember going to the little CAMS, like the mental health service office, sitting in a chair, and I couldn't stay still for the life of me. I was literally getting up and down, going all around, and I remember, I can't remember if it was dad or mum, they're like, just stay still, please, just sit still. And the person on the other side of the desk being, no, it's fine, we need this. This is part of the diagnosis. I'm like, you need me to stay still? I took my tie off and I started to tie my hand to the chair, thinking it would help me sit still. I was like, Dad, can you tie my other hand? I can't get the other one. And that was, that's actually part of when I got diagnosed with both Asperger's and ADHD, which are the two things that tend to go very hand in hand. Normally, if you get diagnosed with one, there is a form of the other one on some form of spectrum along the route. They're almost like a married diagnosis to a degree, but that's not to say obviously you can't have one without the other.
How did your school friends react to you?
Well, fortunately, a lot of the friends I had in school, I actually knew before going to school because I knew them from church. So they had some base understanding. But before I went to my secondary school, my best friend in primary school said that I can't be associated with them in school, obviously not in such adult words. I was friends in private, and to me that was enough, because it was like I finally had a friend. It wasn't until I started to grow up and get an understanding, and I was like, okay, I found like a little clique, and I would find people that I could get along with and play around with. And even if I wasn't necessarily the typical and closest of friendships, there's still a couple of them that I'll still happily go, look how fabulous I am, look at my drag photos. And I'll still have the chats with them, but it took me a little bit longer than maybe other people to get that sort of bond and relationship. But I got there in the end. It just took a few extra steps.
Did you encounter any bullying?
Yes, a lot. I've had a golf club to the back of the head at one point, walking home from school. And then in a completely alternate thing, I've even had a gay bashing happen to me when I was a young adult. So that obviously not necessarily to do with the autism, but I've had my share of bullying for different things, and this was all before I came out the closet. So I didn't come out the closet till I was doing my A levels, and I was just bullied quite badly, called Sid the Sloth because I had braces and a severe lisp. And I would obviously braces. I'm spitting every time I'm trying to talk, and even when I had my braces off, the bullying just sort of carried on. I think it didn't help the fact that I was just an easy target because I was a bit more of an outlier anyway.
So can you share some difficulties that you experience day to day in the workplace with your condition?
I take a lot of things as gospel straight out. So if someone goes, oh, let's see about getting together this weekend, and it could be a little throwaway comment, I'll be there like, so when are we doing it? Have you got the exact time? So even like when they're waiting to the interview, I was texting Mum like, I still haven't had a message about the interview. Because I'm a big planner. I'm like, I need to know this so that I can like allot the amount of energy needed for it. So yeah, like, and it comes with a little bit of pedanticism as well. Like, I'm a bit more anal and specific about things, but working in pharmacy, that's a very good thing, because in medicine I have to be exact and on the money. I can't, even if I have to make a calculation and sort of something out. Let's say I have to give a 0.1 milligram tablet, but I don't have that. I have to be exact in my calculations to make it up with the other tablets. So pedanticism, which doesn't always work well in personal life, I won't deny, but in the workplace it's great. But otherwise, I've been in my current post for about 2 months, and getting to know everyone has taken me a little bit longer. Like, there are some new starters that I'm close with because we started at the same time. We had a little bit to bond over, but I found it really hard to get to know the people that have been there for a while, because I didn't know how to bridge that gap and be like, hi. And even though it's as simple as saying, hi, tell me about yourself, it's much more difficult in person and when you in practice than it is in theory.
So that's maybe around social cues. Do you find it quite difficult to read a social situation?
Yes. I've gotten so much better as I've gotten older, but I still have my moments where I'm not maybe the most emotionally intelligent when it comes to these sort of things.
So what could your managers do to sort of help that situation? Could you give some guidelines that people might use?
So I'm very fortunate with my managers. My managers are very open and aware of autism. They've, like, even part of the mandatory training when in my post is to do autism awareness training, which I think is absolutely brilliant. Everyone in my department has to do it, and I think everyone in my local branch of the NHS is part of the you have to do this, and you have to do a top up like every year. I think it's 2 years, in case of obviously new information, but just to refresh, which has made it a lot easier. But for the most part, I think with me, I find it easier because my managers will just go, can we have a word? Are you feeling okay? And recent example with the vaccine service, I've offered to pick up an extra shift to do it. And my manager, who's been basically begging for shifts, has gone to me, do you think you'll be okay? Is this not going to be too much for you? Because I know sometimes you have moments where if you're working a bit too late, when you get tired, it affects you. And she's been obviously crying out saying, we need people to help with this. And then I'm offering and she's like, it's fine. We've got this. If you're sure, I will work with you to make sure it's well. And that's the key thing. She wants to work with you. She won't. And I think that's the best thing for all managers, is working with the people, because at the end of the day, specialists can say everything, but I know me and I know how I work. I know me and I know the best way. And obviously it doesn't always translate with particular guidelines, but that's what, if I didn't bring it up and have that meeting with, say, occupational health and the management, I might not be working to the same level that I can now.
Right. So would you say it's a lot of checking in with you, and how things are?
It's less checking in. I think because I'm quite high functioning, I'm at the point where I can, if I'm having a moment, I will just go to my manager and say, can I get some air for a few minutes? I'm just getting a bit overwhelmed. But I don't even have to say the second bit. I can just go, can I go get some air for a few minutes? And it's like, sure, just let us know when you're back so we know when you're back and safe.
Just taking a breath. That's really good advice, actually, like you say, for everybody. What about your reactions? Can they be quite extreme? Have you, if there's a good news story or something that's exciting, can you ever sort of overreact?
So, let me tell you a little bit of story about when I got offered this job. So I had this interview, it went really well, and within a few days I had a call saying, we're going to offer you the job pending. And down the phone, this is how I knew I was going to get along very well with my manager. She goes, if you're going to scream and squeal, do it now. That's like, now is the time that you're allowed to do this, because you just, and if I get overly excited, I let out this really high pitched noise. And as you notice, then my hands start to go and I start to flap, as it's called. I think the formal term is stimming, where you just can't help when your hands start to move. And I'm a very handsy talker, so hence on the street I'm trying to keep my hands a bit below, so I'm not as distracting and visible.
Can we talk a little bit about, the superpowers that you may feel you have that autism could give you that makes you different?
Of course. I mean, aside from the sheer fabulousness, I mean, look at this.
Well, you're out fabulousing me today.
Trust me, it takes a lot to out fabulous someone. And you're no exception. It's very difficult. I mean, I can tell by your personality you're a fabulous individual anyway.
Well, thank you, darling.
It's just that little thing, and it gives me that ability to pull on knowledge that maybe others might not necessarily recall, especially if it's a topic I'm interested in. Like, I play Dungeons and Dragons a lot, and I'm to a degree slightly obsessed with Dungeons and Dragons. I won't lie, but I can sit there and tell you very specific bits, like, oh no, this, you don't get this bit until you're this level. You're not playing this character. Yes, but I know your stat is +6. How do you know it's not your character? Because I remember when you rolled it 2 weeks ago. And it sort of just sticks in my head like that.
So it's quite reassuring, really, to know that there's there are people that have traits that make them very, detailed, focused, and logical. I mean, that's, especially in your job, that does sound like a real bonus.
It is a real asset. I'm very detail orientated. I have moments where I skip over them because I'm a human being, but I'm not always a very big picture person. I will zoom in on the little details, but sometimes I'm zooming in the wrong little detail. But once I'm on that track, it takes a lot for me to just have to pull myself away and go, no, this way.
Would you say you find it difficult handling stress and anxiety then? Is that quite?
So I've got coping mechanisms. Granted, not always the best coping mechanisms, but I've got coping mechanisms. Fortunately, I don't drink and I don't smoke, so they're not my coping mechanisms. Mine are, I'm going to lock myself away and throw myself into a game for 24 hours straight. Oh no, I forgot to sleep. But obviously in the workplace, it's hard to use that as a coping mechanism, which is why it's so important to have this open communication with your line manager.
So from what I've heard, the key things to take away from our talk today, specifically for managers, is to be flexible, open, and to give sort of clear guidance and so that there's not a shocks aren't coming and surprising. Certainly in mental health first aid, they talk about having a safety plan, so that almost you can discuss it in advance, so that before you've got things in place, so that exactly as you say, when that moment comes, you probably don't want to start saying in a logical way, I'm feeling very stressed. But if people can identify the signs, your manager, your colleagues, and they know what to do, who to call, and what options to give you, would you think that would be a good idea?
Yes. I mean, going off again, I can only really go off my personal side of this. I wear headphones at work. We're not allowed to, but as part of my occupational health and my meeting with my manager is, especially if I'm starting to, it's getting to me, I can put my headphones on because of the sheer rush of people, the machines, the robot picking up stock, and then just everyone talking and the phones ringing and the bleeping. It gets to you after a while. So I can put on my headphones and just sort of cut a lot of it out. And I don't have to ask for that. That is a thing that's been set up in advance. My managers are aware of it. I've had a chat with my manager even after talking to occupational health to make sure that they are okay with it and they understand. So now I just wear my headphones around my neck all the time at work, unless I'm going out and talking to a member of the public or a patient. And then if I'm just working away, I will put my headphones on and just block out the excess stress.
I think it's great. I mean, what you're saying really is such a positive story. It rooted in lots of successes, and really, like you said, you've highlighted communication is the key. So really, I think the takeaway from our talk today is to communicate, and to make those first baby steps really for our staff. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you to Nanette in EDI who arranged this for us, and the fabulous EDI team. And next time I'm gonna wear a wig.
Oh, do you want me to lend you one of mine?
Yes, please. Oh, yeah, not the brown. Is that brown? Because obviously I've got that already.
It is a dark maroon red. It is absolutely beautiful.
Well, maybe, yeah. Get it sent over.
Oh,